Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my friends Mo Nawara in the Midwest, and we've got Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're looking at Week 13 in the NFL. Player props here for you guys. We're bringing you these each and every week of this regular season, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Come follow along with us. Also want you to head to TheLines.com. Nate and Mo and the gang put all of these picks and such on TheLines.com for you guys all season long this NFL. Also want you to head there to use that odds finder tool where you can go ahead and make sure you're shopping those NFL lines to the best of your ability this season. Let's go ahead and get into a passing prop, rushing prop, and receiving prop as we're bringing you one of those or a couple of those each during these shows. We'll kick things off with passing props per usual. I am super excited to talk about the New York Jets quarterback for the first time in a long time. Nate, let's get into your first passing prop.
Our guy, Mike White, meaning Zach Wilson, is, of course, not our guy or the guy of anyone in the Jets locker room. You might worry about White repeating his performance against just a putrid Bears defense, but consider, if you will, Mac Jones versus the Vikings defense last Thursday night, and then Mac Jones last night, or against any other defense he's faced. He looked like an absolute star against the Vikings D, which is now dead last in passing yards allowed, giving up 343 per game since losing Cam Dantzler to IR. Lewis Cine has been on IR for months now. Their safety in those three, giving up a 74% completion rate. And in their last 7 at home on that fast turf, giving up nearly 300 per game at a 77% completion rate. Excuse me. Mike White is a guy who will get a high completion rate. He will make the easy throws. That is what the Jets, praised him for, rather than Zach Wilson trying to be some sort of Mahomes light, which he is not. And, he went the Jets went 7 for 12 on third down. White converted 14 passing first downs. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore reinvigorated to be playing with somebody that they like. And we like Mike White over 232.5 passing yards.
I'm very intrigued to hear what you think about this one, Mo. I'm assuming there's some split decision going on about Mike White, at least amongst some bettors right now. I'm riding Mike White as well. I'm ready for the headline on Monday morning that the Jets have a new quarterback officially. How do you think this one's going to go?
We need to wait for another headline? I thought we were already there. Nobody worse than Zach Wilson. No, I'm in agreement with this one, I think. I love the Jets this week. So Jets +3 is far too high, in my opinion. It's at least a point off, and it's the most important point. So I think that the Jets should move the ball. It's just like Nate was saying. I don't think we need Mike White to be a world beater to throw for 233 yards on this Vikings defense. They're atrocious. This is just a bad defense. They can rush the passer, and that's literally all they can do. So as long as Mike White doesn't get sacked 7 times or something, he should go over this number, because this defense can't stop anybody. Exhibit A is, like you said, Mac Jones. He's not good. He hasn't been good all season, and he couldn't do anything yesterday. But he absolutely shredded this pass defense. And it's not unique. It's not a one-time thing. They just haven't been good all year.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like you said, it doesn't take much. I also just love the fact that there's a guy named Cam Dantzler. Sounds like a made-up name after Cam Chancellor was in the league, or like you're playing Madden for a few franchises, and all of a sudden the new player is named Cam Dantzler. Let's go on to the next passing prop here, and this is going to take some balls, I believe, Mo, if you're taking a Tua Tagovailoa under. It looks at 272.5 is where I believe we're finding it right now. So give us some reasoning about Tua this week.
Yeah, actually, so when I saw the Look Ahead Lines, I write the Look Ahead Lines article for TheLines.com every week. You guys should check it out, because it can help you get some early value. But sometimes it can trip you up a little bit. Last week, I was really excited for the Dolphins. I have them right there with the Vikings. I think they're just as good of a team. The 49ers. I think they're right there with the 49ers in terms of their ability to win football games. But maybe not right now, because 2 huge injuries for the Dolphins. Right tackle Austin Jackson, and more importantly, much more importantly, left tackle Teron Armstead. They brought him in the offseason. He's a star. And if they are without their 2 starting tackles, which it definitely looks like they're going to be, this is not the matchup where you want that, okay? So at this point, I'm definitely not going to bet Miami, even though I did think that line was initially too high. They do have a couple of pretty experienced backups, Greg Little and Brandon Shell. I can definitely think of worse situations than to have those guys as your backups. But, I mean, blocking Nick Bosa is tough enough when you have an elite tackle out there, okay? I don't know what he's going to do to these backup tackles. It could get very, very ugly. And if this was a situation where we had Patrick Mahomes out there, Josh Allen, somebody I could trust to escape the rush, somebody I could trust to feel the rush, I don't really think that's something I can expect from Tua. I don't think he's going to make plays out of structure. So 272.5, huge number here. I think the only thing the Dolphins are basically going to be able to do is throw quick passes. They did it all season last year. Jalen Waddle and now Tyreek Hill. But we saw some Jalen Waddle games with 9 catches and 60 yards last year. I think we could get something like that in this game. I mean, yeah, those guys could break a big one because of their speed. But, man, the 49ers are not the team that gives that sort of play up. 3rd in coverage, according to PFF. 2nd in tackling. I don't see the Dolphins getting a ton done on offense here. And I've been very impressed with I think their coaching is tremendous, but I just coaching is only going to get you so far when you've got backup tackles against Nick Bosa.
I had this in the article too. Yeah, I agree. And you talk about coaching. Everybody's saying what Mike McDaniel's going to be able to do to out-scheme his old team. Well, what about what Kyle Shanahan knows about Mike McDaniel and how he likes to run an offense? And that 49ers defense has just looked like the best in the league by far, the last 3 weeks or so. Tua's been playing some cupcakes. The one time he did get a really good pass rush at Cincy, he got hurt and he was not playing very well at all before he got hurt. With Nick Bosa in his face here on the road, I don't love him to light it up for nearly 300. Looking at rushing props here, Tyler Algier at 38.5 rushing yards. He's priced like, he's in a 3-way timeshare still, I guess, or like he's the backup to CPAT, but it was an even split last week. And Caleb Huntley is just out of the picture. The coaching staff seems to love Algier in short yardage situations. They want to save CPAT for a bit more gadgety stuff. And even though they were facing Washington, which came into the game 2nd in DVOA rush defense, they were willing to just have Algier plunge into that line. He got 54 yards on his 11 carries. And at home, Atlanta has the highest rush play rate in the league, 60%. At home, Algier averaging 5.8 yards per carry and 66 per game. Pittsburgh, much, much worse rush defense on the road. They're 8th overall, but like I said, Arthur Smith don't care. But Pittsburgh allowing 4.7 yards per carry on the road versus 3.1 at home, allowing 126 yards on the ground versus 77 at home. Without the terrible towels, I don't think they're going to be as tough. For Algier to just tack 39 yards on here, it's just real low for a guy on such a run-heavy team.
I'm going to throw a potential same-game parlay at you if you do like the over there for Algier, which makes perfect sense. 170.5 passing yards for Mr. Mariota again. It was at 161.5 last week when we took it. I believe he got 174 last week against those Commanders. If you do think the Steelers are going to be at least decent against the run, I know they're much worse on the road, then there's at least some opportunity for maybe Algier to get 39, but also, to keep Mariota in check a bit more on the ground. Maybe he's able to get those 171 passing yards. What do you make of any of the things that Nate or I are saying here, Mo?
I wasn't too sure about this game, to be honest, overall. I think if you want to go same game parlay, I think a cute one would be, if we think they're going to have success rushing, I think a cute one would be both running back overs with something, because it has a negative correlation, so it's going to pay out super, super well, right? But if this team is committed to working in both running backs, then I could definitely see that happening if this game is close, which it should be according to the market. Although money does seem to be coming in on the Steelers a little more overall. Yeah, this one is so dependent on just usage, honestly. I mean, I think he can definitely get past this number. I was impressed with Algier last week in short yardage. I thought he was running the ball very, very strongly and got some yards that weren't blocked for him, to be honest. So, yeah, I was impressed when I've been watching Algier this year. And if he gets the carries, I think he'll go over this. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know what they're going to do with Patterson. And yeah, it's just kind of been a weird season as far as running back usage and just general usage goes. I think in general, we all know there's been a lot of ink spilled on the lack of usage of Kyle Pitts, and now that he's out, to maybe they run the ball even more. But I don't know. I think they definitely want to against the Steelers. I mean, subjecting Mariota to that pass rush seems like a recipe for disaster for sure.
Yeah, and the other guy you'd want to see them throw to is Drake London, as they still haven't thrown to their top overall pick nearly as much as you would have liked. But maybe there's some separation issues for him as well. If he's not going to be able to get open quickly, Mariota's not getting rid of the ball quickly. Yeah, they're probably going to have to get a little bit more schemy, and that's part of the reason why it's so annoying to try to predict who's going to get the yards for them when they're all schemy with the way that they're running the ball instead of just running between the tackles consistently. So get our next rushing prop up here for us, Mo. Saquon Barkley, an interesting number, 69.5. Nice. Which way are you going on that one?
I went with the under cautiously. Not as excited about this one as I am about Tua's under. I feel like we should be selling really low if we're taking under on Barkley right now, right? But the number's still 70 yards, basically. I mean, the Giants haven't opened a hole for him in weeks, okay? But maybe that changes this week. I could see that changing just because they are, I think, getting some of their linemen back. But I don't know if these guys are going to be 100%. I don't know. Some of them might be banged up. Saquon has really, really cooled off lately. Okay, like he has gone to this number once in the past 4 games. That was against the Texans. I don't even know if we consider them a pro football team at this point, so I'm not even sure if we should count that. Okay, and now facing the Commanders, I know it's at home and hopefully getting some linemen back. And let me tell you, I hope I'm wrong about this as a multiple league Saquon owner. Okay, but dude, the Commanders are elite versus the run. I mean, they're top 5 in almost every stat: success rate, DVOA, EPA. I mean, this team is very, very dominant up front. And also, the team's been working Matt Breida in a little more. I don't know, man. I was looking through his usage. He's been getting a solid 10-ish snaps a week, 15 snaps a week. And Saquon was down to 63% opportunity share last week. So if he's anywhere near under 70%, I guess, he's going to have a tough time going over this number against the Commanders, man.
Yeah, I'm not feeling great about it. The biggest holes the Giants' offensive line is creating is for the opposing defensive line, as Daniel Jones has been under fire. Saquon has been hit behind the line. He got hit behind the line in 4 different rushes last week on some pretty low attempts. So there's not much moving forward for this Giants' offensive line right now, and they are still going to be without at least 2 of those guys on the O-line. They were without 6 of their top 8 O-linemen for 2 weeks in a row. So even getting a few guys back still leaves you with a former UConn backup tackle playing guard at certain times right now for them that they picked up off the scrap heap. So staying in this game for our first receiving prop, Nate, talk to us about why the Giants' defensive secondary will continue to struggle, as they are also depleted back there, and Terry McLaurin might be able to have a big day for the Commanders.
Yeah, 60 yards for Terry, 4.5 receptions at even money. I'm a little scared of this because the Giants are so bad in rush defense as well, and Washington does just want to pound the ball. But Terry's ADOT is very high, 13.5. It's even higher when Taylor Heineke's out there. He has the second most deep targets of any receiver this year, with Heineke in the lineup averaging 79 yards per game on 5.5 catches this year versus 60 on 3.7 with Wentz. And in 5 career versus the Giants, 95 yards, catching 7 of 10 targets. I mean, he talks about Heineke as being all heart. He's certainly willing to try his chances downfield, and I mean, if you're taking an over on a guy, that's all you really want is give him a shot. And Heineke is definitely willing to roll the dice. The Giants missing 2 cornerbacks, at least 3 others limited this week. They're down to 28th in DVOA pass defense. So you really should be able to move the ball any way you want against this team. And hopefully that means your number one wide receiver who has 99.5% route participation is going to get his looks and make good of them.
Yeah, I was watching when Adoree Jackson got hurt and was like, why is our best defensive back, one of our only remaining starters from the season, returning punts and kicks right now? Like, I understand how explosive he is, but they don't have anybody in the backfield in that defensive secondary to help them, anybody out at that point. So, yeah, I think at least one wide receiver for the Skins, for the Commanders, put one in the jar, apologies, for the Commanders to get at least one of their wide receivers some good numbers this game. Maybe a Gibson prop in there as well for some receiving, as he's been obviously really great out of the backfield. Let's keep moving on to get out of this game to the next receiving prop here, Mo, and an interesting one, as we haven't usually seen Derrick Henry's name here for receptions.
Yeah, I decided to get weird this week. I feel like I'm always digging up some weird ones.
You're pretty weird, yeah.
Definitely dug up a weird one here. Derrick Henry over 13.5 receiving yards. I do like the Eagles in this game. So I think we could see the Titans passing a little more than normal, although I will say when I was looking through his box scores overall, it doesn't seem to matter that much what the game state is. He does seem to get around 4-ish targets a game. But yeah, 4-ish is a lot compared to how he used to be used in the passing offense. It's actually pretty interesting in a year where it started off that Dontrell Hilliard was ripping off, 40 yards a week receiving. They kind of are trying to work Derrick Henry more into the passing offense, it seems like. It really does seem like this offensive staff is a little bit committed to this, and I understand it. I mean, when your receivers are this bad and your running back is this capable of ripping off a 90-yard screen like we saw last week, granted he fumbled at the end of that, but yeah, I think it makes sense to try to get him the ball in the passing game a couple times, and they're doing it, and it's working. Since those first 2 weeks when he didn't get a single target, he's averaging 30 receiving yards per game. So basically, ever since he's been a part of the passing offense, 30 yards per game, and we only need him to get half of that. And this particular matchup, Philly has been below average at defending pass-catching running backs, 26th in DVOA. They're allowing about 7 completed passes per game. 2 running backs. I think that Derrick Henry could find some space here, and he's averaging, I think, something like 13 yards per reception this year. So he might only need 1 catch for this. But, yeah, I mean, a reasonable chance he goes over here, I think.
Yeah, I also took an unconventional one in this game. I like Ryan Tannehill, 9 rushing yards, because I think the Eagles, tough on the interior. I think they'll move him off the spot a couple times, and maybe he scrambles, gets it that way. Or maybe the Titans use a little bit more read option and get him going with his legs. But yeah, I think we'll see some unconventional stuff from this Titans offense. They don't really have any receiving weapons. And same kind of theory. I kind of like the Saquon over on receiving yards, or longest reception, 11.5 yards. I think while he won't be able to plunge into that Washington line, I do think he'll break off a long screen or 2 as the Giants use him in a similar way.
Yeah, and adding one more idea to that is the fact that they started to use Hilliard in the 2-back set with Henry a bit more as well, which is nice, so that that it used to be if Hilliard's in there, he's probably catching receptions, and it's a little bit less of that scenario, as you said, getting 4 passes per game towards Derrick Henry, because he's actually on the field in those situations a bit more as well, and that receiving core is it's dwindled down to nothing at this point. I probably could use A.J. Brown. That's neither here nor there, and that is all the time that we have for you guys in this one, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we're bringing you these NFL player props each and every week of this regular season. And until we see you next, happy betting.